Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 95 with Ellie Roberts. She's a phys ed teacher, as well as a competitor in the Miss UA pageant, and we talked a lot about her experience doing that, as well as why she got into teaching and kind of the backstory behind that. It was a really great podcast. You can check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. I did want to take a chance to kind of talk about some kind of, I guess you can call it drama that was going on Facebook this past week. I want to acknowledge the fact that as content creators, we should not be attacking other content creators, especially when platforms are like mine are associated with like mental health and sharing people's stories. I don't think it's a good look for people. And like, it's unfortunate that, like I always say, a lot of the times your critics come from your hometown, and it's unfortunate that is that way. But I wish that person nothing but the best. We talked privately and we hashed it out like adults, and I think that was the proper way that should have been done. Much respect to him, and I wish him nothing but the best in his future as well. So hopefully maybe in the future we could do some collab and we could talk it out on the podcast, which is something I would look forward to. But I just want to talk about it publicly and address that on my platform, that I like to support all content creators and people who preach being a content creator, because it's not easy. It's hard to come on a podcast or YouTube channel or Twitch and promote yourself. Like, it's not easy stuff. So anyone that can do it, shout out to them, and continually do that stuff consistently and try to show love where you can. I think it's super important. On another note, we do have an episode today with another great guest for episode 96, Tyler Senecal.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Tyler Senecal. 25. I live in Swansea. I drive drift cars for fun. It's probably the most exciting thing about me. And I'm a mechanic. I work on cars for a job.
Yeah, and we're gonna dive heavy into the car stuff. I'm pretty sure I haven't had anyone who's really into the car scene yet. Yeah. So it's a completely different avenue than what I'm used to talking about, and I'm completely out of my element. I'm not a car guy, so
yeah, that's all right.
I'm super excited to kind of like pick your brain a little bit, learn a little bit about why you do what you do, and talk a little bit about your life journey. So The first part of the podcast, like I've talked to you privately off the podcast, is kind of family dynamic, where you grew up, like your family structure a little bit, kind of like what it was like growing up for you. Obviously, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, you can start there, and then I'll take a spin off that.
Yeah, so I grew up probably 10 minutes down the road from here in Senecal. Both my parents still together. They've been together this whole time. I have a brother who's 36. I think he's 11 years older than me. He's a lot older than me. And my sister is 6 years older than me. He's 20. Oh, well, she's like 31 or something. Yeah, math. Don't quote me on my math.
No, don't ask me my brother's ages either.
So I grew up with them after a pretty normal childhood, I guess. It's definitely a little interesting having a brother who's 11 years older. Your brother's a lot older than you, isn't he?
Yeah, my oldest brother. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's always
a good 6-7 year difference.
Interesting. So like, it's not like, I never had a sibling who was like my friend who would hang out. Well, I'm not saying I'm not friendly with them, but
yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Wouldn't like hang out with them, like go to do stuff with them that was like normal, like friend stuff. But it was almost like you kind of watch someone who's like a whole step ahead of you in life, and kind of like, I don't know. As a kid, you don't realize you're doing it, but you're like taking notes, seeing what they're doing, and just, I don't know, just picking up stuff from it.
Yeah, I was kind of like looking at my oldest brother like that. A lot of the stuff that he stumbled on in life early on. Like, as I started to get into like my teenage years, I started to like pay more attention to that stuff and kind of take mental notes. Like, maybe don't do that. Maybe try not to do this.
My older brother is definitely a little bit of a shithead sometimes, but I don't know. He's good. Him and my dad, they get along now, but they're the exact same person. They're both really stubborn and thick-headed, and like, I mean, those type of people don't get along really well together.
No.
They're good now, but I remember growing up, they used to disagree a lot, and I don't know, it's just typical like teenage son and parent stuff. No big deal.
Absolutely. My dad and my brother would butt heads a lot too.
Yeah,
and like,
definitely.
You noticed
that's the word for it, butt heads.
Yeah, because I mean,
definitely did that.
I mean, obviously know my brother Jordan. You guys are mad close.
Yeah,
and like me and him, God, like when we were kids, like we just didn't like each other. Like,
shit, huh?
Like we'd fight all the time. And like you guys know Jake Wickham. He's been on the podcast, and like me and him are cousins, and So we were talking about this the other day. We were playing video games and like how me and Jordan would just get in fights and like Jake would run in like kind of like crying. It's like they're fighting again, like because like his younger brother. There's a little bit of an age difference. Shout out Dylan.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an age difference, and their dynamic is not the same as me and Jordan. Me and Jordan used to beat the fuck out of each other, to put it lightly.
I remember boxing my brother one time in the kitchen. He gave me boxing gloves, and he's 11 years older than me. What the hell am I going to do? And I remember he wasn't trying to like beat me up or anything. He was just doing it for fun. And one time he finally opened up on me, and I just went down like a sack of potatoes. I was like 6 years old, dude. I couldn't take a hit.
Because my older brother would come around, he'd kick our ass.
Yeah, no, that's pretty, there's nothing I could do.
That's always the humbling, because like he would take it out on me, I would take it out on Jordan, and Jordan was close enough in age where he'd fight back and he could win some.
Yeah.
So like it was interesting, but like I also had kind of like a best friend that we did everything together. That was a good experience.
Yeah. I had a lot of good friends, like the neighborhood kids when you're younger, which that's pretty much who I'd hang around with. Just hanging out with them, playing Pokemon cards, playing Airsoft in the neighborhood, all that stuff.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like I got more into Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! I dabbled, but I used to buy like the fake Chinese cards from the flea market and think I was the shit.
Exodia and what was the other ones?
And they're all so fake looking.
So like, fake. Yeah. There's the Dark Magician and like there was...
They're the guy that was like 5 parts or something.
Yeah, I think that was Exodius or Exodia.
I couldn't remember his name.
I'm pretty sure that, and I could be wrong, someone might probably correct me on that bullshit, but like that was something that was dope, and I want to dive in a little bit into like kind of like the friends and that aspect and kind of like hobbies, because like I always talk about hobbies, and a lot of people usually do sports and they get into the sports stuff, and like we joked about that beforehand.
Well, when I was younger, I played sports, and like my parents kind of made me do it, which I'm glad they did. It definitely helps, and I'm a relatively athletic person. It's not like I'm not athletic, and I've always was decent at sports, but I never really was like super into it. So like the neighborhood kids would always play football and stuff, and I never actually played organized football, but I liked playing in the neighborhood. We used to always have like a team. I was the receiver in the neighborhood and stuff, and we'd play like baseball and stuff. I played soccer up until high school, and then I played baseball up until like middle school, and I broke my arm right before baseball season, and that was my excuse to finally quit and not play ever again, which is I was okay with. Baseball is definitely my least favorite. I also played basketball too. I think part of the turnoff for sports for me too is I was always on a bad team. We always sucked. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't good. I was like maybe slightly above average, if that, at sports. So like, I'm not gonna make a team better just because I'm on it. I was decent. We were always on shitty teams, so that might have made me not like it. But I had these twin cousins that I hung out with, and we got deep into skateboarding. That was the thing that I was really, really into when I was in like middle school and early high school, was skateboarding. And that was always fun to me. My twin cousins, they're 2 years older than me. They're girls, Jenna and Jocelyn. I used to hang out. They were the people I hung out with the most. Used to go skateboard and get kicked out of places. And we had a bunch of Monster Mini Golf nearby. I don't know, you ever been there before? They had that little like ramp in the back there. Yeah. We used to use that like a quarter pipe, and that big ledge where like all the trash is. We used to jump off of that, and we used to get kicked out of there all the time. We'd go to Price Right, buy a 2-liter of pineapple soda, and just skateboard for the day until we got kicked out. That was a lot of what we did. So
skateboarding was kind of like your way of, once you started getting older too, and like started to, obviously because you said you played sports almost pretty much till up until high school. So like, obviously started to transition into more, it's kind of adventurous.
Junior year of high school, but yeah, skateboarding was where it's at. I thought it was fun. I was never that good at it, but I like the freedom aspect of it, that you just do whatever you want, and like no one's pushing you but yourself. And I guess would push myself because I do a lot of dumb stuff. Like you want to see yourself jump off a stair set and just constantly strive to be better at it, even though there's really no reason other than the fact that you want to.
No, I think that's actually a good like talking point too, is like it's a sport where it's kind of driven by your own motivation to be better. Like,
no one gives a shit how like what I do at skateboarding besides me, or maybe the people I hang out with, they're stoked to see me do something cool.
But or the community. Like, I know the skateboarding community is pretty
self-motivated entirely.
Yeah. And I think that's because it is a sport. Skateboarding is a sport. BMXing is a sport. Like these things are adventurous sports that I think
it's
the X Games and stuff.
You know.
Yeah. And like it's a different avenue because it's more of an individual sport.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get the limelight, obviously, besides like X Games or like Winter Olympics and things like that, or the Summer Olympics and shit like that. That's when you see those sports kind of really highlighted. Mm-hmm. And it's dope that, I mean, we grew up like Tony Hawk. The Tony Hawk games were like a staple in a lot of people's childhoods.
Yeah.
And like,
I used to watch Rodney Mullen videos. That dude used to skateboard flat ground and do the craziest shit with the skateboard. It was insane. And like you watch that, and then I got to the point where the X Games were all like 16-year-old kids. I don't know if you followed the X Games, but like when I was probably like 18 or something. I remember watching the X Games, and these kids would be so good, and I'd be like struggling to land flip tricks. I'm like, man, that kind of discouraging. But hey, good for them. They're nasty at it. But
because I mean, it is a lot of practice.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And that you learn a lot from a sport like that. I can imagine, like for me, because team sports was always something that I just was drawn to. I fell in love with football, and like that was where I made a lot of my friends and lifelong friends, and people who've been on the podcast. And I think I'm glad that you experienced playing team sports before you made the conscious decision yourself to like remove yourself from it. 'Cause at the end of the day, if you don't like doing it, it's not worth doing. Like
definitely.
Once you get what you have needed from sports, it's fair to move on. And I obviously like for myself, I'm not a tall person, so playing at collegiate and pro levels was never on the table for myself, other than just pure love for it.
Yeah, you just enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about off podcast too, about doing things just because you love to do them. And I think that
do it, just keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's a valuable point, because a lot of people get sucked into the aspect when, especially if you put money involved.
Yeah,
and
if you do it for any other reason, it's going to suck the fun out of it. It's not the same anymore.
Yeah, and that's a huge problem with, especially if you look at it, especially nowadays with how competitive youth sports are.
Yeah.
People pour money into these kids, and I feel bad for a lot of them. Is like the competition is more aggressive, and it's not about fun all the time. And like,
I mean, I guess certain people are in it for certain things. There are kids who just want to win, and that's fun to them. And then there's a kid like me who's on a shitty team, and is like, as long as he's having fun with his boys, he doesn't really care if you lose that much.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's probably why I'm not a competitive person, like, at all. I never have been. I don't give a shit if I win or not. Like, I like to do good for myself, but like where I place amongst other people doesn't really bother. I don't know. I've never been a competitive guy.
No, and that probably rolls to your advantage though, because you don't feel, and especially in a time like now when social media is so comparative, that you don't feel the need to like do any of that. And you just do it because you enjoy doing it. And that's part of the reason I was like really excited to interview you, because like you kind of beat to your own drum, and that's fucking dope to me. Like, like you don't really. Obviously we're friends outside of the podcast, so like you just don't give a shit about this type of stuff, like where you have to compete with other people and worry about that.
I don't know, I just like to do things for fun. We had a YouTube channel for a while of a skateboard, and that was fun. We used to call it Productions, and it was because we would take videos and we'd look at all of our videos, and afterwards we'd have someone going in the background every one. So we're like, oh, we got to call it Productions. That was our thing. And we were never that good. We like had fun. We actually produced like pretty freaking good videos. Like the quality of videos, the editing, the music and stuff, pretty damn good. But our skateboarding, not amazing. I mean, we were good for like 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? The biggest stair set I ever ollied was like a 6 stair, which isn't impressive. I could probably go and do that like tonight if I really wanted to, because I still know how to skateboard enough. But like it wasn't any like super impressive stuff. But the videos were entertaining. We got to the point where we had like 1,000 subscribers.
Damn. And
it was funny because when we got older, we were probably maybe like 15. My cousins were 2 years older than me. So maybe when I was like 15, we're like, oh, as soon as we get a car, we're going to be able to go skateboard wherever we want. We're not going to have any limits. We're going to go all the spots we want to. And then you get your license, and then you have to get a job, and then you don't have free time anymore. And we honestly pretty much stopped skateboarding for the most part. As soon as we got older and finally had the freedom that we wish we had, then we didn't have the time to go skateboarding as much. We didn't really go as much. I still dabble every once in a while. Sometimes I'll get like a month where I just like go to the skate park and stuff. And I always bring it with me when I go places. Like if I go to a drift event, I bring my skateboard with me. I just need like time to kill in the pits. I'll just do a couple kick flips to make sure I can still do it. But I don't do it that much anymore.
And I mean, it keeps you in shape too. Like
but you bust your ass. I sprained my ankle a couple years ago doing it, and that was when I was like a working and shit. Like when you bust your ankle and you realize you're working, you're like shit, I might not be able to go to work.
I feel that. Honestly, I was telling you, like I got tendonitis in my knee right now, and like I love football. So like it sucks. Football's a team sport. And like so like you need other people. So like when we finally get the guys together, we're all older. So like and it happens without a doubt almost every time. At least one person gets hurt almost every time. And like now that I'm hurt, and like it's not from that. I run a lot, so like it's an overuse injury, but like I have a real life job. Like I have stuff that I got to worry about. Like, and
I think about that too sometimes when I go snowboarding. And it's like maybe I don't want to hit that jump, but
because it's like it's an adrenaline boost. Like we love like because in something like that, you're competing with yourself.
Yeah,
like
you just want to do better.
You want to push yourself to
like
the limit.
I landed the trick, but it wasn't clean. Let me try it again. Even if you're not getting on video, you just want to I don't know. I don't even know what it is. You just want to freaking do it.
Yeah, I think there's something in like human nature that
Yeah.
enjoys some type of competition,
Like, I know
whether
I
it's
can do
self or
better.
others.
Why don't I keep trying?
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I think people can get caught up in it, and I
Yeah.
think that can be negatively impact stuff. And like, I mean, not to dig up what I talked about earlier, but like, I mean, that happens when you're creating content too. Is like this competition factor
Yeah.
runs up with a lot of people, and what I've come to realize too, and like it was kind of like a tough pill at the time, was like you're not entitled to people's views,
Yeah.
you're not entitled to their likes, you're not entitled to their shares, you're not entitled to interviews, like
Yeah.
like you're not entitled to jack shit. You got to work for everything when it comes to creating
You go to work
stuff.
to get me on this thing.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. You just had
Like-
to ask me. I was like, hell yeah, dude.
because like this platform's a little different. It's about kind of allowing people to have a platform to share their story. Because
Yeah, definitely.
how many times do people walk up to you and be like, "Yo, you want to talk about your life for a little
Nobody
bit?"
does that.
Nobody
No one-
fucking does
no one
that.
gives a shit.
Like, and I do, because like
Yeah.
hearing, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, is like hearing someone else's story could give you a different insight, and there might be something they say that you relate to. Obviously,
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting to you because we're very different people, but like a lot of views we share the same. The way we think about things, it's very similar, even though it's completely different. You know?
yeah, and like you're a very busy person. Like
Yeah.
the times where we cross paths, maybe we're watching like a UFC fight or some shit like that. It's like and we're adults. Like it's hard
Yeah.
to sit down with people and have like a life conversation like these days. And
Yeah.
like I take time. I set time out of my day because it's something that I've learned is my passion. Like
Yeah.
I really enjoy asking questions and digging into people's. I hate saying it, but like digging into people's personal life
Yeah.
a little bit and like taking a little bit piece. And I appreciate someone like yourself that isn't big on social media like that, like
Yeah.
sharing their personal stuff, to come on a platform and be like, "This is me. This is kind of like a
Yeah.
little bit insight into what I'm doing."
It
And
may be interesting. It may not be. Hopefully, it is. Though.
yeah, I said it like if
Yeah.
people tune in, if you find one thing that you like and the
Yeah.
rest that you don't need, take what you need and leave the rest.
It's
like,
cool. It's cool to hear a point of view different from your own, especially nowadays when everything on the internet is designed to show you exactly what you already want to hear.
yeah, and
It's just nice to hear something different.
exactly. And like that's why I allowed this platform to be completely open to anyone who wants to
Yeah.
come on. Like if I'm wrong about something or you disagree with it, I would love to have a conversation
Yeah.
because like I'm on record saying this stuff. Like you
Yeah.
can call me out. Like I'm not hiding. Like I'm a pretty vulnerable person. I call myself out my bullshit all the time.
Yeah.
Like I talk about situationships that I've been in, toxic relationships. I talked about therapy, like injuries, like
Yeah.
my work a little bit. Like I'm pretty open dude. And like, I just want to offer that platform to people. So when they come on like this, we talk and we just chat. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's like a conversation we'd have off podcast, obviously a little bit more polished, a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
But, like,
Definitely.
But same kind of authenticity. Like what
Yeah.
you see is like what you kind of get. And I want to dive a little bit too as we transition kind of like post high school. So you're looking at high school, you're about to graduate, and everyone's favorite question, the college experience. When you're looking at college, what were you dealing with at that time? And like, what were your kind of options that you were looking at?
So I went to a tech school. So college wasn't really pushed on you like you were at like CConk. Like everyone was like, you gotta go to college. You gotta do it. It was different for me. But I went to a tech school for graphic design, which who would have fucking guessed that? I'm a mechanic and I went to school for graphic design, right? But I did that. So yeah, that was if you're gonna pursue that career, generally you would go to college. I had a co-op job my senior year, so like instead of going to shop every other week, you just work. And I got paid like $9 an hour. It was nothing, but I was doing that instead of going to school, so it was sick. I liked it. Well, I didn't like the job. The job actually sucked. But I like not going to school and getting money instead. But it also taught me that I didn't want to do that. And the guy actually offered me a full-time job after that once the co-op season was over. He's like, he liked me. I guess I was decent enough at it. Or I was just cheap enough labor. Maybe that too. But I knew I didn't want to do graphic design. It just wasn't for me. Which now I've been rethinking things, but like at that time I was like, I don't think an office job is really my thing. I gotten into cars because when I turned 16, I got my license like as soon as I could. That was like, you need that source of freedom. I wanted a car. My neighbor had an old truck. It was a Ford Ranger that he used it as like a yard truck, and he had some car, it was a Grand Marquis that needed like a fuel pump or something in it. And the truck needed work. It needed like $600 worth of parts alone, and then just like the labor obviously is more. But he basically said if we did the fuel pump in his car, he would just give me the truck. So I was like, hell yeah. So when I was like 16, I didn't know how to work on cars. My dad's like, he's a handy guy. He knows a little bit about everything. He was a contractor, and then when he realized he was having kids and shit, he realized he needed health insurance, so he got a job at the post office. and has been like a maintenance man for the post office. He knows like a little bit about everything, and he always knew how to do cars. Like a fuel pump's a relatively simple job on a car. So we did the fuel pump on that guy's car, and then he gave me the truck. We had to do like brakes, shocks, leaf spring hanger on it and stuff. And that was like my first time working on cars. Other than that was really my first time like really being involved in him like making me do shit, kind of like what I was doing with Jake the other day at his house.
yeah. When I pull up,
he was doing that to me to kind of like hand it to me, let me struggle for a bit, and then like once I struggle for a bit, he'd jump in, show me what I have to do. But you gotta let him struggle a little bit so that you kind of learn from it. And I did that so that I could get the car because I didn't have a bunch of money saved up. I was 16. I wasn't making a ton of money, so that's what kind of introduced me to cars, and it was kind of exciting. I kind of liked it. It was cool, and I think in high school, I bought a Thunderbird. I had an 87 Thunder. I think it was the biggest piece of shit in the world. It was so junk, but I thought it was cool. And at the time, I really didn't think it was cool. And looking back, I think it was such junk. It was terrible. It was a turbo coupe, so it was a manual, and it was supposed to be kind of fast, but it was junk. I won't get into much more details than that. But I thought it was cool at the time, and that was my first real project car. And that kind of working on that got me into cars. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got out of high school. And my parents told me they wanted me to go to community college because my sister went to college and she graduated. My brother didn't, but my sister did. So they kind of said, if you don't go to community college, you'll have to stay home and pay rent. But if you do go, we'll help you out and help you pay for it, and you don't have to pay rent until you're done. So obviously, it's a no-brainer. It'd be stupid for me not to go at that point. So I did community college, online community college. For the most part, I had like 2 classes I had to go in for. And I'll be honest, I didn't fucking retain anything from that. I have the piece of paper that says I did it, but I didn't really retain anything from it. And I maybe didn't do it in the best way, but because I was working full time at the time of going to online community college. I did. So right after I got out of high school, I got a job working actually at the place I currently work at now, at the auto auction, but I was a driver. I just moved cars around a lot, and I did that for the summer, which that was a decent job. It paid okay, and I had weekends off, which is a big thing for me. And I worked there for maybe like 3 months, and then I got a job at CarMax being a reconditioning associate. And I guess I should get into how I got started into drifting, because that's kind of around the same time.
Yeah, you can dive into that right now.
Yeah, it kind of merges. It kind of is like in sync with my career too, because that kind of got me my job. So when I got in high school in graphic design, we used to have like our own projects. We'd design pictures or like, I don't do graphic design shit, you know? I haven't done it in a while, so I forgot a lot about it. But like, we'd basically pick our own projects. And I do a lot of car-related stuff, and I started looking into drifting because the pictures are just fucking sick. It'd be like a car sideways with a cloud of smoke behind it, and just like a cool car that was all like modified on really shiny wheels and stuff. And it was really cool to me. And so I do a lot of pictures around it and do a lot of projects at school that related to drifting. Then I got into the videos. I was like, man, this shit is so damn cool. But I didn't know like where to go to experience it. And I just, on Facebook, I don't remember who told me about the first drift event. I wish I could, because that would be useful. But there was a drift event. If anyone knows anything about local drifting, there's a place called Club Loose North in New Hampshire Motor Speedway. They did skid pad events. And I went up there with my buddy Ethan, which you know very, very well. Yeah. I went up there with him. Ethan. Yeah, what's up, dude? And I went up there with him, and we drove up in my Ford Ranger. We filled the bed with stuff. We planned on camping there, and we got to the gate, and we were both 17 at the time, and they won't let you into a racetrack unless you have someone above 18 to sign for you, because like liability shit. Yeah. And we're like, what the fuck? We just drove 2.5 hours here, and I was 17 at the time, so like 2.5 hours worth of gas money is a big deal. So we drove all the way there, and they're like, yeah, you can't come in, and we didn't know anyone there. We just showed up out of the blue. I didn't know anyone. I just somehow figured out there was an event there and went, and didn't know anyone at all. And luckily, he had an aunt that has a house on Lake Winnipesaukee, which is like 20 minutes down the road from there. So we ended up staying there for the night. And then we went to the drift event the next day. But we wanted to camp there because camping at the drift events is always where it's at. We didn't know it at the time, but that's where it's at. That was the funnest things about it. So we went to the drift event the next day, and we had a media pass because we were into like, I was always into videos for my skateboarding. I had a decent camera, and I don't know, that was what I was into at the time, was videos and video editing. So I figured kind of like the border between like skateboarding videos and driving a car would be to take videos of cars. So we got a pass, which we thought we were cool as shit because we weren't 18, but we were media guys, and we were like had these special spots where we could go on the skid pad to take videos. And honestly, looking back at the videos, the driving that day was pretty whack. Like, people weren't really driving together, and like, it wasn't super impressive. But at the time, dude, my mind was blown. It was insane. I was like, this is the sickest fucking thing ever. These cars are crazy. These guys are maniacs. They like hit a wall and then like rebuild their car in the pits. I was like, this is the coolest shit ever. And everyone looked like they were just having so much fun. And I was immediately sold after that. There was one guy, I was taking a video clip, and he like, we were on the edge of the dirt behind a tree, and he like put a tire in the dirt and just chucked a whole bunch of dirt and rocks at me. And I was like, man, this is crazy. I was like, that guy's a maniac. He was like this close to a tree, just chucking rocks at me. And actually, I'm really friendly with that guy now. I like, just at the time, I didn't really know him too well, but now I'm actually really, he has the same kind of car that I have now. And when I was building my car, I talked to him a lot, and I was really friendly with him. But that's what like got me into drifting. That was the first event, really. So at the time I was working at the auto auction driving, we came up to that's why having weekends off was really important at that time, because we wanted to come up for all the weekends. They have maybe like an event a month during the summer when there's good weather on the weekends, and then a lot of them would be 2-day events. So you'd come up on a Friday, camp both nights. People would drift both days, and you just hang out and just camp. There's a big party the night before and everything. It used to get wild, dude. I'm telling you, it was so much fun. And I'm not a partier either. Like, you know me, I'm not crazy. The only time I would ever party would be at drift events. So yeah, me and Ethan would come up. We had our media thing called Skid Machines, and we used to take videos and pictures, and man, it was sick. I wish we could go back to doing it, but once I started driving, it was just too much. But I used to went to like every single event that year, and I used to get videos. And at the end of the event, I'd make a Google Drive folder, and I'd upload all the videos. And I used to spend so much. It was so stupid because I spent so much fucking time on this shit. And I got nothing out of it besides enjoyment. But man, I spent a lot of time on it. And I used to edit videos for people. I used to put folders of all their clips in one video. And organizing videos is so difficult. It takes forever.
Oh, hell yeah.
You're watching individual videos, you're renaming them, and it's just sucked. And I'd try to like name it off the people's names.
That's the worst part about doing this podcast. Sorry, guys. I fucking hate the video.
Videos are terrible because they're just so difficult to work with, like to transfer between your like phone and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And like I try to find a way where people could download them. But yeah, I'd send the videos to everybody. I got to know pretty much all the drivers because they're all like, hey, can I get my videos? And you get friendly with them. And I remember there was a 4th of July event. That'll always be like the number one event that like sold me on drifting. It was the 4th of July. That was the first event where I like started hanging out with people and like really getting to know people personally. And we went up there, and it was a 3-day event. And no, it wasn't a 3-day, it was a 2-day, sorry. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there was a lot of really good, like, this was the first event where there was like quality driving. I'm not shitting on anyone who's driving before, but like it really, looking back at like the quality driving I see now and then, it wasn't at the same level. And that was the event where like they call it tandem when more than one people drive at once. Mm-hmm. And they were actually like tandeming like pretty close to each other. And there's a couple guys who were like, I think like almost pro at the time. And they were there, and I remember it was just like a big party. The way they had it camping, it was like a central fire pit, and they had like all woods around, and everyone camped on the outside. But like in the middle, everybody was there, and it's cool because nowadays everyone's, and they don't like hang out with each other as much. Like everyone has their own group, and they kind of stick with it. But then everybody was in the middle, and like everyone was friendly with each other. It was just a good time, and I was like 18 years old. People were handing me drinks and shit. I'm like, it's fucking sick. And like, I'm not even a drinker. I didn't even like beer. I was like, yeah, can you give me some Mike's Hard?
Shit tastes good.
I was such a fucking loser, but no, it was fun. And like, we ended up being like buddies with the guy who ran the whole thing because like he just liked the media shit that we did. And I ended up being really friendly with people. And I was like, for the time, I think, I don't know, maybe I wasn't, but I thought I was like the go-to video guy around there. And then a really, really cool experience that happened is someone we knew was a caretaker of an abandoned mill in Central Falls.
I remember some of those videos that you had.
That was fucking sick. Yeah, someone we knew was the caretaker for there. So I don't remember. The guy who ran the event, actually my buddy Eric, who's actually one of the guys who helped me out with like when I first started building my car, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I rented at a garage in East Providence for a while, and he'd help me like work on my car there until I like figured out how to work on it myself. But he knew the guy, and they talked them into having like drift cars there and just drifting. We're like, this will make a sick video. Like, why don't we go do it? And we invited some of the people that we know. And there's a professional drifter who's from New Hampshire. He's like a really local guy. His name's Ryan Turk. No one's probably ever heard of him because if you don't know drifting, you don't know him. But if you're familiar with it, you probably know who he is. He actually won the Formula Drift last weekend, which is like the number 1 drifting series in America. He just won it last weekend, which is pretty fucking good.
That's actually
and
crazy.
I guess the guy who ran the events in New Hampshire talked to him and gave him the address. No one heard from this guy at all. And we're all just like hanging out, talking to each other, trying to figure out what we're going to do. And this fucking professional driver pulls up in like a big ass truck with like a 40-foot trailer. And we're like, what the fuck? Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And like, I don't know, just insane. He pulls out, he had a Scion FRS with a 2JZ, which had like 600 horsepower, which right now every 2JZ makes that much horsepower. But at the time, it was fucking sick. And that was like it was like a professional car, and that was like one step down from a professional car. That was like his demo car. So he'd use that for stuff like that. And he pulled that thing out of the trailer, and we were just completely in shock. We're like, what is this dude doing here? Like, no one knew he was going to show up. And we had people unloaded it and started drifting, and he like just like asked. He was just talking to us like normal people. He was a wicked cool dude. And actually, I haven't talked to him in a long time. But after this event, I talked to him for a while. Like every once in a while, I'd see him and be like, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" He remembered me, which I thought was cool as shit. Get like a little bit fanboyed, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I looked up to him at the time, and yeah, at the place, he's like, "Oh, can you guys like show me around so I can just like scope it out?" We were just like, it was me, him, and Ethan, and I think another video guy. I was like 17 at the time, walking around some abandoned mills in the hood of Central Falls with a professional drifter. I thought it was the coolest shit in the world. And he's just talking to us. He's just a normal dude, wicked friendly. He's wicked nice. And yeah, it was just the coolest shit ever. We ended up getting a bunch of cool videos of people drifting in the abandoned warehouse. And then eventually, because we're in the hood of Central Falls, like a crowd gathered at the entrance and was watching us, because you don't see that shit every day. Yeah. And the cops ended up showing up because someone, obviously noise complaints bullshit. And like, we technically were okay because we were there with the caretaker. Like, he was the guy in charge of the place, and he gave us permission to do it. So they didn't give us any tickets, but I guess because of the crowd and the noise complaints, they had to kind of like, they're like, "Hey guys, I got a bunch of calls. You got to stop." And it was funny though, because the cop actually knew Ryan Turk. He like heard of him before. He like took a picture with him and everything. The cop was wicked friendly. He was wicked cool about the whole thing. He was so bummed. He's like, "I'm sorry guys. I hate to be the one to do this, but I got to stop this." So that kind of sucked. But that was like a really cool moment. I felt like I was like the go-to video guy at that time. It was pretty sick.
It's kind of cool because I mean, you're getting everything that you had done in your life too is kind of building on top of each other. Like first the skating, and obviously when you kind of do skating and BMXing, I mean, it kind of almost like anything on wheels kind of turns into the car scene a little bit for a lot of people.
And like the creativity of skateboarding kind of evolves into, I mean, maybe it doesn't, but for some reason, everyone I know into drifting either BMX or skateboarded. Usually everybody. There's a couple people who didn't, but pretty much everyone does. Because you go to any drift event in the pits, you got people in their bikes just like doing bar spins to kill time or skateboarding, just like I do. It's just like maybe it's not a natural progression, but it's a progression most people take.
I mean, it makes sense too. I mean, that type of adventure sport where it's kind of really focused on you.
It's adrenaline junkie shit.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You're just looking for the next rush. That's all it is.
You ever do skydiving?
No, and I won't.
Really? Yeah. For someone that like drives the guys, you see his videos, their cars like this.
I want to be in control. That's what it is. At skydiving, I am at the mercy of whether my parachute works or not, which it probably will. I'm not saying skydiving's unsafe. I just
yeah.
I don't know. I like being in control of my own destiny.
Wanted to see where your limits were, so we know that.
Yeah, that's my limit.
We found the limit.
I guess it's a stupid limit, but I don't know. I never had the desire to do it.
Yeah, I want to actually ask this question regarding like the car scene too, and like kind of like your advice for someone who wants to get into it, whether it is drifting, whether it is just making videos or taking photos for people. Like, obviously, you started at a young age and you got a lot of experience and you currently drift. So, like, kind of what would you be advice to those people, like especially those younger kids who are looking to get into something like this?
Just find the people who are having fun and talk to them. They're the ones you want to talk to. Because when I first got into drifting, there was these two kids. They were my age, but they were like into it before I even started. And they were the dudes that were having the most fun out of everybody. They had these two cars that were smashed to shit, and they were bouncing them off each other, but they were having so much fucking fun. And like they were the ones that I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, you look at them having fun, and you just kind of talk to them, get input from them, and ask them what they're doing, because that's the ultimate goal, is just to have fun. So talk to them. They know what they're doing. There's a lot of guys in there. I mean, there's people who do it. I mean, everyone fucking does it to have fun. Why would you spend so much money on it if you're not doing it to have fun? But yeah, that's what I would do. Is just find the people who are having fun, talk to them. They're probably the people who are the friendliest out of everybody.
No, I think that's good advice. Is like, and especially with anything that you want to pursue is something that you really enjoy doing, is find the people who do it well and also really enjoy it too. Because usually those kind of coincide with each other. Like, seeing people enjoy, and that's why when I'm looking for guests, I look for people who enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
And you're someone who enjoys I mean, you wouldn't do it and spend as much money as you do.
It's so stupid. From the outside in, it's so damn dumb. It's like, why do you do it? It's just the rush. It'd be cheaper for me to have a drug addiction at this point, for the most part. I don't know. It's kind of similar though. You're just looking for the next rush, and it's kind of fucked up because like after drifting for like 6 years, if I do anything else, it's just not the same. Like I used to get a real big rush out of snowboarding. It's not the same anymore. I have this thing where I'm so desensitized when I drive a car now. No matter what happens on the road, dude, I'm unfazed. Absolutely unfazed. Like the craziest shit can happen to me on the highway. Doesn't matter. I'm unfazed because when you drift for 6 years, you drive in a train of 20 people who are sideways, dodging people, spinning out, watching people crash right in front of you. You just don't give a shit anymore.
Have you seen any like scary type of crashes and stuff while doing drifting?
There was one time where someone had to go in an ambulance. That's the only time. Actually, there was the second one. But there was one in Canada where someone actually had to go to an ambulance. And that was a bad one because someone broke down at the bottom of a hill and they were in a blind spot where the person coming over couldn't see. So the person coming on the hill had no freaking clue that someone was there broken down, and they just plowed into them. So that I think they were fine. It was just like they're just checking them out because I guess their back was sore, which it will be after you do that.
Yeah, I mean whiplash probably too.
Yeah, no, that was pretty bad. And then that was in Canada too, but everyone was speaking French, so I didn't really know what the hell was going on. But I know they got taken away in an ambulance. But I'm pretty sure they were fine after that. And then there was another one in New Hampshire where someone hit a tree and the whole side like caved in, where the door was like touching where their leg would be. But I guess the guy was just a little shaken up, but he was fine. But most of the cars, drifting's different from racing because you're not necessarily going fast. On some tracks, like I've drifted at 93 miles an hour, which is fucking insane. But most part tracks, like especially local ones, you're doing maybe like 45, 50. And when you hit stuff, you don't hit it straight. You usually like hit it with the corner and then bounce and spin around. It's not like hitting a brick wall kind of thing. So I haven't really seen anyone get actually hurt. I've seen cars get totaled all the time. But yeah, never anything that bad.
No, I think that's a good distinction to make too, is because like, I mean, people, they might hear drifting and think car racing immediately. I mean, a lot of people who are not maybe as educated or are in the scene as yourself. So I think that's a good thing. Because I mean, obviously when you talk to an adrenaline rush, talking about going like just drifting in general, it sounds like, and if you see some of the videos, it looks like you're going like super fast. Like,
yeah, because there's all the tires screeching and smoke and stuff. But yeah, normally like that video I showed you, you're usually going like 40, 50 tops. Not tops, but yeah, 40, 50 is probably your average like close tandem speed. Which, I mean, if you hit a brick wall at 50, it's going to fucking hurt. But normally you're going sideways and stuff.
Yeah, that's actually, now that you say that too, like when you actually like, think about it logically, I mean, that kind of makes sense too. Like you're drifting, so like you're not going to hit something straight on going forward because like hitting something straight on going forward.
Stuff. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I've hit walls before.
What was like the biggest like kind of like roadblock or bump where there was a crash, where there was like whether it's building the cars that you've kind of had to overcome while doing this passion of yours?
I think I've gotten pretty lucky because a lot of people build a car and they don't like it, and I got really lucky with the first car I built. Worked really well, and I absolutely loved it. And I still, it's the second version of the car because my old car was really rusty. So I guess maybe that'll be the biggest roadblock because I reshelled a car. So when I bought the car, I paid $1,500 for it, and it was like really rusty. Like the rocker panels were pretty much missing. It was really rotted, but I didn't expect it to turn into what it turned into currently. I used it with the stock engine, which had like 140 horsepower. It was slow as shit. But looking back, that's the best way for people to learn to drift is have low horsepower and like a relatively simple car that's cheap and easy to run. And I did that for a year. And then after that, I got to the point where like I pretty much could drive the car at its limit, even though looking back, I probably wasn't driving it at the limit. But at the time, I was like, yeah, all right, I'm ready. And I engine swapped it with another engine from another car, which basically doubled the horsepower level. And then I drove that for, I don't remember if I drove, I painted it tan, so I just call it the tan car.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I drove it for a year or 2 years. I'm going to say 2, but I'm not 100% sure. I think I drove it for 2 years like that in the tan car. And that car actually, so the first thing I did with it is I drove that into a wall at Senecal Speedway, which is the second crash that I was actually mad about because it was so stupid, man. I was doing the spectator drags. I don't even know what I was thinking. I just like understeered and drove into the wall. It was so dumb. Looking back, I didn't really care that. Like, it wasn't even about the car. I just felt like an idiot. I was like, why did I even do that? Like, this was Senecal. I don't care about Senecal Speedway. It's just like race. I was just there to have fun because this is the whole point of it. You know, you're just doing it to have fun. And then I just drove into a wall. It was dumb, but I did it. And I ended up fixing the car. And after that, my next trip was to go to Canada. And when I was in Canada, they had this thing they called the Party Line. It's an event called the Maple Leaf Bash. And they have an event called the Maple Leaf Bash in Canada, which they did a lot of my family's from Quebec, actually. So that relates to family. My grandmother was born in Quebec. I don't think my grandfather was born in Quebec, but his family is from Quebec. So I go to Quebec every year for a family reunion before COVID started. And so I've always liked Canada. It's a cool place. And we ended up someone I knew went to Canada to drift at an event called Maple Leaf Bash. So we're like, fuck it, let's go. It'll be cool. And when me and a couple of my buddies went there, and they had a line called the Party Line. So this line, basically, everyone that's in the line, they just send them all at once. And there'd be like 20, 30 people in the line. They all go like this, and that's like the train. You want to do the fucking train. And they'd send everybody at once. And I don't do that shit anymore. But at the time, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to get in the party line. I'm going to stay there all night. And we were drifting. And somebody spun out in front of me, which, like, that's the worst thing you can do at drifting is spin out in front of somebody because I'm already sliding out of control and you're probably within 15 feet of me and all of a sudden you're stopped. And I was able to avoid the person and I, like, stopped for a sec because there was nothing I could do but just stop where I was to not hit them. And you're in a train, so there's people behind you, too. And it's just a train of people trying to avoid people. And I stopped and all of a sudden just, oof, someone drove right into my passenger side. And the thing that bugged me about it was that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just salty about it. But at the time, I thought that I was stopped for long enough where, like, anyone in their right mind should have been able to avoid me. Because I stopped. I had, like, that second of, like, whew, like, I dodged it. And then somebody hit me. And they hit my passenger side hard. Like, my fiance, I'm going to call her my girlfriend for the rest of the contest. But we're engaged. Podcast. But we're engaged. I call her girlfriend because I hate the word fiance. There you go. It's clear.
We're just about 40 minutes and he finally drops that.
We're going to clear that shit up. But yeah, she was in my passenger seat and it shattered the passenger window. Like it was a hard fucking hit. And yeah, that kind of pissed me off because I felt like it was really easily avoidable. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just me being salty at the time. And I didn't even know the fucking person who hit me. Never talked to them in my life. And they just totaled my car. Like, I don't know. I was a little upset about that one. And that changed a lot about how I drive now. And, yeah, they drove into me, and that car was pretty fucked up after that. The door wouldn't open anymore. The window was shattered. The fender, I just fixed it from Senecal Speedway, and then someone fucking drives into me again. But that's drifting. That's part of it. And yeah, that was the end of that car. So the biggest challenge that took me a while to build up to that, huh?
No, I told you, I love. This is what podcasts are about. It's about the story.
All right, so it took me a while to build up to that, but that was kind of relevant to the biggest challenge. So now that car was. I actually drove one event with it still smashed up because it wasn't the end of the season yet, and my buddies wanted to drive another event, and I drove one more event with it fucked up, and then I think like 7 laps in, I blew the transmission. So I went to go do my thing, and you rev it up, and then you dump the clutch out. That's how you start a drift, and it just went, and the transmission was just fucked. And I actually took it apart after there was like one. It has like it's just a gear with a bunch of cogs on it, and there was one cog left on the gear, and the rest of it was just everywhere inside of it. It was pretty crazy. It was a lot of carnage. But yeah, I blew the transmission that like 7 laps in of that drift event. And then I was like, all right, like I clearly need to do a lot of fucking work on my car. It's total. It's got a bad transmission. And I had someone I knew who had a Cressida that they already took the engine out of. And it was just they call it a rolling shell when you buy something like that. It has a suspension, but just no engine, no transmission. So I bought that off of him for like $600. It wasn't mint, but it was nicer than mine, that's for sure. So I bought that one. And over that winter, you call it reshelling a car. You take everything out of my shitty, smashed up, rotted car, and you put it into the other car, which, looking back at it, it was a lot of fucking work, but I'm glad because I did a lot of things in the new car that I wish I did on the old one, and it was just a better car in the end. But that was difficult. That was a lot of freaking work.
I remember you were starting that too. You spent you'd post. You're not a big poster in general, but like you were posting stuff a lot of time in the garage, working on that stuff, and like you probably learned a lot through that process. I mean,
no, that's how I got my job because my experience just building my own shit. Yeah, but I had to pull like the sub. It was actually seemed easy because you pull the cars are like Legos. They have a subframe that holds all the suspension. You take that out, and all the suspension's still together, and you just put that subframe in another car. Same with the front subframe. You do the same thing, and you do that. But there's a lot of like little things that you don't think about at the end that you do that take fucking forever. And then you want a car that looks decent, so you got to paint it nice, and that costs a bunch of money. And then I had a roll cage in the other car, so I had to cut out the roll cage and then build a whole new roll because you can't can't get a roll cage that's put together and put it in another car because there's a roof and shit. It just won't fit. So you need to build a whole new roll cage for the car. So that was my winter I spent doing that. And that was just a lot of freaking work. I'm glad I did it, and it came out pretty damn good. And that car, I haven't beaten the shit out of for like 4 years, and it's been absolutely great, I'm thankful for that. But that was a lot of freaking work.
I mean,
especially to do
it teaches you a lot too. Probably not only about like cars, but like kind of like yourself and what you're capable of too. Which is
there
like
was a lot of late nights at the garage.
And like it's at the end of the day too. I mean, this is the whole overall concept of the actual that would have been awful of the podcast is like passions. It's like doing stuff because you love to do it.
There's no other reason to doing that because I wanted to.
I mean, it's the same. Like people always ask me if like I want to monetize this and all that stuff. And like, it'd be great to have some type of compensation for what I do, but I don't do it for that. That's never been the driver to create a platform. Is to do it to have conversations. And I always wanted to do something a little bit bigger than myself. Yeah, and I think that adds a lot to someone's life is when you have that hobby or that passion or even sometimes it's your career that lights that motivation that drives you to continue doing it. And like, it gives you kind of purpose. And I think definitely we need passion and purpose together, whether your passion is working out and your purpose is like training, like sometimes your purpose and passion aren't always co-aligned or aligned, I should say. And you kind of have to figure it out. And for a long time, I didn't know what my passion or purpose was. Yeah. And then I kind of stumbled into, I loved conversations. I always loved like one-on-ones with people. Yeah. Like that was something my old manager when I was an intern in like this Fortune 500 company. And like, she's like, you don't really talk too much, but like when you're one-on-one, you're so good. And I'm just like, and I was fucking little intern in a fucking huge building, corporate building. I'm like, well, I don't fucking really know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to be saying too much. But like that was kind of like a building block for myself to realize was like, I have these skills that I love to one-on-one with people because like I don't like being in big groups and
me neither. I'm not a big group guy.
No, it's just easier when you're talking to someone
one-on-one. Else in the group is always going to want to say something more than me, so I kind of just
fall back. Yeah. And I do that a lot too. So like this platform allows me to kind of take the lead a little bit, but in taking that lead, I'm kind of like almost like handing a platform to someone who's like allowing them to talk as much as they want to, like because some people don't talk as much and some people talk more, which I've learned to kind of balance that and figure out how to navigate and how to become I've learned communication is like an art. You got to have to navigate it. It's not always pretty, but you got to learn how to communicate and understand people and where everyone comes from and how to get the most out of people and ask the right questions that lead into different topics. And because like anyone that's been on my podcast, I lay out the structure of what we're going to do, but I don't stick to it. Like we'll bounce off ideas and like go off stories. And I think that's the point. It's like
a conversation. You don't want to structure too much, but you kind of want a basic outline.
Yeah, you want to outline.
Lose your way, you kind of know where to go to.
And it's probably similar too when you're kind of working on your cars. Like you have what you're looking to do, but you're going to come across things that like
find a bolt that's loose.
Yeah, and you figure it out and you adjust it. Yeah. And that's a perfect way to tie that.
Adapt and overcome, my boy Bear Grylls.
Yeah, I mean that's that might be the quote. Y'all, you might see that.
The amount of times I send that meme to everybody because everything is involved with improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Absolutely. And we're definitely coming towards the back end of the podcast, and I definitely have some wrap-up questions for you. Okay. But I know you have an event coming up that you wanted to talk about, so...
Yeah, so I'm going on a thing called Driftweek, which, if you're into cars, maybe you've heard of Drag Week, maybe not, probably not. It's fine. It's not super well known. But it's a road trip for drifting, where I'm going to be going for 12 days. It starts at Englishtown, New Jersey, then we go to Pocono Raceway in Pennsylvania, then Summit Point, West Virginia, and then we go to Thompson, Connecticut. So we're going all over the place. But normally for a drift event, I trailer my car there, and I unload it and just drive for the day. But this drift event, the whole unique factor of it is that you're actually street driving your drift car to every individual track. And it's 12 days and there's 8 days of track time. So it's basically a whole season of drifting within 8 drift events in a year. You're just spaced out between the summer. But yeah, it's pretty freaking crazy. And you have to like apply for it. And honestly, I thought I had no fucking shot at getting in. And a bunch of my buddies told me to do it. So I was like, fuck it, I'll apply. So I ended up making a Google Drive folder of all my videos and sent it. I sent it over, and within 2 hours, actually, the guy who ran the whole thing sent me a message. He's like, hey, what's up? You got a second to talk? And I was like, holy shit, looks like I'm getting in this. And I talked to him on the phone for a while and ended up getting in. But I was so shocked about it because there's a lot of like you're into drifting, there's a lot of really well-known people who are doing this. Like, I'm completely out of my league on this shit. Like, I'm just a normal dude doing this for fun. I don't have sponsors. I don't compete. I did one competition. I did pretty well, but I just didn't like it. So it's just weird for me to do it, but it's cool. You can meet a lot of new friends, drive with a lot of really talented drivers.
Yeah, if I give you any advice on this thing, document it, man. If you get a chance to
bought a
record
bunch
this
of
stuff,
freaking SD cards, and I have my co-drivers coming with me. I'm gonna try to freaking document as much as I can, just for my own sake too. Honestly,
yeah, the content you post, bro, is dope as fuck.
Yeah.
So like, I would love to see a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it. I've been really bad with it, but I feel like with 8 days of track time, I'm going to have enough downtime in those days where I can actually take the time to set up my camera and shit. Because at a normal drift event, you have 8 hours and you're just trying to get as much driving in as possible. So you don't really think about setting up cameras and documenting it. It's kind of just do it. But I think hopefully, we'll see. This will probably all go to shit as soon as I leave and my car breaks down or something. But the plan is I got a bunch of shit. I got my camcorder, GoPros. I'm going to try to document as much as I can, but we'll see how that actually works.
I mean, you learn, you adapt, survive. I mean, it's kind of what you're talking about.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of YouTubers going on this. There's a guy called Adam LZ, which if anyone's at all into cars, they've heard. This dude's got like 3 million or 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
Damn, that's impressive.
This dude's huge. He's going on the trip, and he's like the biggest name going. So like, there's a lot of people like that. There's maybe like the top 3 drifter in the United States. There's a guy from Australia who's probably one of the best drivers in Australia coming over on the trip. It's pretty fucking crazy, and I'm really excited for it. And I'm also kind of scared because it's going to be a lot.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's
but that's part of
kind
the
of like
fun.
the big league stuff. I mean, you're entering a category where you can network with some of the dopest people in, like, I hate to say industry, but like industry.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I'm just jumping into the deep end on this. We'll see. It'll be fun though.
And it'll be an experience. I mean, we learn from experiences and we grow in your own, and it's a chance to see how other people do stuff. And that's, I think that's how we learn the best, is looking at how other people do things and taking small pieces from that and applying it to our own craft. And I think that's what make good creators of anything good.
Yeah.
Like when I mean, look at just the name of the podcast. It's the Carroll Connection, the Joe Rogan Experience. It's literally kind of built off of that. When I thought of names, and the name is kind of something me and my brother used to talk about. We talked about like the CC. We played football, like the Carroll Connection. He'd be the quarterback, I'd be the receiver, and like it was corny, but like when I thought of names, like Joe Rogan was a huge inspiration for me. I just loved the thought behind his podcast where it's free flowing, and I was like, how can I make it my own? And boom.
There you go.
You take it and learn. And like, I think that's the best way to learn, is like seeing how other people do things. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for you as well.
Yeah, I'm fucking excited. It's going to be crazy.
So we are coming towards the end of the podcast. So I do have one more question for you. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you wanted to mention?
I don't know. There's a lot of shit, and there's a lot that I don't remember because I don't talk about it a lot. Well, this is like the whole career stuff. I guess that's semi-interesting, even though I'm not a really career-oriented person, but I guess everyone has to give somewhat of a shit about their career to do stuff and like enjoy the life, because you gotta have enough money to do it.
I mean, it's facts, especially with the hobbies and passions that you're into. I mean, there's a price to that.
Yeah, there is. It sucks. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a mechanic. That's my job. But I don't know, lately I've been kind of thinking about So last year there was a thing where I'm a flat rate mechanic, and that's a whole other fucking bag of worms to open up. Can of worms, not bag. I got the saying wrong. But basically, depending on how many hours I generate in a day is how much I get paid. If I come in and there's no cars to do, I make 0 hours. I go home, I make $0. I'm not guaranteed anything, so it's really difficult. And just like a minor change can make a huge difference in my paycheck. I've had my paycheck drop substantially just because something changed at the company that was completely out of my control, and that kind of sucks, you know. But for the most part, I do good enough where I'm content with it. But I don't know, I'm always looking for something better and kind of eyeballing it. And everyone I work with says that like that's the best automotive job I'll ever have. So like I believe them. They're older dudes. They've been in it for a lot longer than me. So I've been looking into getting like a career change just to just open up my perspective, because since I got out of high school, all I've really been doing is automotive related industry. So. Yeah, I knew a couple of people. One of the mechanics I work with, his younger brother is a software engineer, and he makes a shitload of money. Which that's not the only reason I want to do it, but it sure is a big one.
I mean, too, you're doing something very physical, and as you get older too, you're on your back a lot. You're doing in these weird positions, and stuff.
Luckily, my job's a lot of inspection, so it's not like completely busting my ass. But there's a lot of days where you do a set of tires on like a heavy ass truck, and I'm obviously not a large dude.
I've done some tires in my day. So I don't work
out besides my job, but Yeah, it just wears you out, and sometimes you come home and you're just completely spent. Which obviously other jobs that aren't physical, you come home mentally spent. I understand it's different. I'm not hating on other jobs, but
No.
it'd be nice to not be fucking dead at the end of the day, you know?
No, and I think it's an important point too to bring up in the podcast is like, even when you get to your point, you should always be looking at opportunities. Like, never stop trying to
Yeah,
grow.
exactly. And my plan, I bought a couple of books, which I don't read books. I'm a fucking idiot for that, but I really don't read books. I bought a couple of books called like just for coding, because I tried doing YouTube videos and I didn't like absorb anything from it, because the dude just does it in front of you and you just follow along. You don't actually like think for yourself. So I bought a couple of books where you actually like follow along, do activities, and have to do thinking for yourself. And I'm actually absorbing quite a bit from it. And basically my plan is to just follow along with the books, learn as much as I can. And then there's a lot of resources online to learn how to write code. So I've been following along with the book. And once I finish the book, I'm learning HTML right now, which is for building websites. And once I finish the book, I'm going to start building websites and just like applying it.
I'm down to collab, and if you could try to help me learn how to build
I
some
don't think
websites.
I'm at that level yet, but hopefully I'll get at that point. And basically, the guy, my coworker's little brother, he's self-taught and he makes a lot of money doing it. And basically what you do is you get a portfolio that shows what you know how to do, and you just use that.
Saying, hey, if you want to help, obviously we can compensate.
Once I get to the point when I know what I'm doing, then that's pretty much what you do. You take on side work and just like do stuff for friends and family to kind of gain experience and just demonstrate you know what you're doing. And then you show that to people and you get a job. And I just figured, like, fuck it, it's a good skill. I've always been into computers because of the video editing, and I've always played video games and stuff. And worst comes to worst, I teach myself a new skill in my spare time, which isn't a bad thing. Like,
No, and I think it's a good point too that you're hitting on like the actual reading. That's something I've like just reading books. Like I absorb it way more when I'm like. There's just something about flipping the page and like actually like forcing myself to read the content that I absorb. Like if I listen to an audiobook, I don't always pick up on it. Like even when I listen to podcasts, sometimes I have to like watch the podcast to really absorb what I'm looking at.
Like I tried listening to podcasts while I was going through the book, and I can't do it. I have to listen to music though, because I'm a big music nerd, and I put on some live Red Hot Chili Peppers and I go through my book, and even sometimes I'll just zone out and get caught up in the music and not pay attention, but I need something on in the background. But yeah, the book really, really makes me actually absorb it. So that's the most effective thing I found. So obviously I need to start building websites, but I got to get through the book to know enough to start doing that.
Yeah, and that's a great point to bring up though, because I mean, there's people out there who get stuck in their careers and they're afraid to take that leap. And it starts with you investing in yourself, trying something new. And like, it's shitty, sucks. Like I hate starting something new when I don't know. But like that's the only way to grow and learn.
Yeah, like if I leave, I'm definitely gonna have to take a pay cut immediately. But the idea that you could potentially make more, and just to have, it's all about quality of life, really. That's what you want. Like I look at my job as not necessarily like, I know I'm not gonna love my job. Some people do, and that's fucking great for them. I'm happy for them, but I don't think I ever will. So I basically want a job where I can have as much freedom to enjoy my life when I'm not there as much, because that's what's important to me.
I think that's fucking mid on the point, because I feel the same way. I've kind of learned to accept that, and like, because people want to make their passion their career, and like that's not always going to happen. Like, it just like it's very rare where what you love is what you do for a career.
It needs to be tolerable, you know?
Yeah, like you just got, and especially now, I mean, just be realistic as an adult. Like we do need health insurance. We need these things, like these things, especially if you want families, these stuff is important.
Yeah, it is.
So like, that's why I think these conversations are very valuable, especially when we talk about things like this, because people don't talk about things like this. It used to be taboo to talk about shit like this.
Yeah, no one used to talk about what they get paid. It's a weird thing. And everybody my age, we always ask each other what you get paid, because it's just you got to have something to compare it to.
Yeah, you got to know.
And especially if you're not like a douchebag about it. Like, I don't give a shit what people get paid. I'm just curious, like, what that job pays and what it compensates for, to kind of get an idea of, like, I don't know, just what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why like, I've looked, even like just like my career wise, like for a long time, I was like, man, I don't know, like, I don't hate it, like, but I don't love it. I love this. Yeah. I love creating content. I love making stuff. I love helping people. Yeah.
But imagine if you did it 40 hours a week, it might lose the zip a little bit.
And that's something like people talk about too, is like when they make their own businesses, like they don't go from working just 40 hours. Now they're working like 50, 60, 70, 80 hours now. So like there is that balance that people do talk about, and like it exists. So you just kind of have to figure out what's tolerable for you. Like I could probably say I spend maybe sometimes up to 10 hours of just making stuff for the podcast and doing stuff with that, whether it's the interviews, the editing, all that stuff. And if I did more, I don't know how much I would enjoy going over that, especially not getting paid for it. Like, like there's a limit, because like I also want to enjoy my life. Like, and that's what something people struggle to understand is like why I don't hang out with people is like I'm spending not only my work time doing that, and I like to work out, I like to take care of my body and do all that stuff, and I like recovery time. I like to play video games. I like to like go on hikes and stuff. So like
fun shit.
Yeah, so like I have to figure out where to balance, and this podcast takes up a good amount of my free time. So like, and I enjoy doing that. Like I'll literally take this podcast, I'll go to Colt Stay and I'll edit it all day. And like I enjoy that. So any advice for people out there? I mean, Tyler hit it on the head too. Is kind of like explore other options, like try new things. Like even if it's more of that stuck feeling. You don't want to, and I made an episode called "Feeling Stuck." Yeah, and it kind of ties perfectly with that.
I don't feel stuck.
It's not like you say.
I don't want to feel stuck 5 years from now.
Exactly,
that's kind of where it is. Because like, if you don't know any skills and you're just stuck in your job and you feel like that's what you gotta do forever,
you also become expendable too if you only know one thing.
Yeah, like, that kind of hurts. I don't know. I just wanted a job that pays me enough to be able to do whatever I want, and my job gives me a lot of vacation time, which is nice too. Because going on a 12-day trip's not easy. The amount of people I asked to go with me that couldn't go because they couldn't get the time off at work was crazy. That made me like really, I mean, I'm talking about trying to get a new job, but I was thankful for my job I have now because I'm able to do that. And a lot of people can't. Yeah.
And like, even I work from home a lot too. And that's something that I value a lot.
Yeah.
Like
that's another reason why I was looking into that career. Cause a lot of it's working from home.
That's what I'm saying. And like, I've gained more time spending with my family, living at home and experiencing that. And like, as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate that a little bit more because like, parents aren't going to be here forever. No. Like you never know what happens to friends and brothers and sisters. Like life's short. Yeah. So like appreciating these times. Cause like there's never going to be another time probably in our lives where we're all together in the same house, living our life. So like for people that talk about living with their parents and some people fucking shit on it. So fuck you guys. Like I'm just going to say that like only in America where we shit on people that still live with their families, like other countries and other like cultures.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, they embrace that. You don't leave until you marry someone and leave the household and start your own family. So like, y'all are weird for pushing that. Like, I'm just gonna say that. I really don't care. I want to start wrapping this up.
Okay.
Last question for you.
Okay.
What would your advice be to someone who wants to pursue their passion?
Shit, you caught me on the spot. I should have figured this out first.
I told you before we started.
Yeah, I know. Someone pursuing their passion. Oh shit, yeah, I did have the answer for this. Okay. Yeah, just do it because you want to, and try to avoid any other reason for it. The only reason I do drifting is because it's fun. I try to not add any other aspects to it. So that literally the only reason I pack up my shit, work on my car, spend the money on tires to go to the drift event is because I want to. There's nothing else making me do it. And that helps me enjoy it to its absolute fullest. Like that's the only reason. I go there with my buddies, I smile, have a good time. That's what it's all about, really.
Love that. I think that's actually fantastic advice.
Yeah, all right. I figured it out. I kind of buffed it at first, but
yeah, I mean that's why I give the question up front so people like, and then I've blindsided a few people with that question. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, I should have told you that before. So at least I warned you. But Tyler,
I forgot.
Appreciate you for coming on this podcast.
Yeah,
it's been a blast catching up and just actually having a deeper conversation than just passing. So like, I love doing that. So good luck to you in your future events. I look forward to seeing that. For you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. You can check it out, thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. So until next time, guys.
Bye-bye.
Peace.